welcome again. Today's topic is very interesting. What's today's topic?
We're going to be talking about Bible principles about money.
Yay! Can't wait to hear what the Lord wants us to hear about our money.
Oh, man. Yeah, so...
I just said amen. Amen.
No pun intended. Yeah, so interestingly, the Bible does have a lot to say about money and prosperity, and so we just wanted to kind of go back to the basics and see what does the Bible say, because I feel like in this world we get caught up in doing things our own way, and especially when the world has its own way of doing things. Like there's all kinds of things you can invest in your money in, and there's all kinds of ways to invest, but what does the Bible say about all of these things? What does the Bible say about how to handle your money, more importantly, how to get money, how to sustain that money, and how to use that money in such a way that when you're gone, that money still is doing something. So the Bible has a lot to say about all of these things. And then the key point to note here is that most of what the Bible says are principles that anybody can follow. So you don't necessarily have to be, like, these things are things that it applied in the times of the Bible and it applies to our generation. These are things that if you follow them, it will work for you 100% of the time, as opposed to the things that we do in the world, like taking out debt to invest and all these kind of things. Sometimes it might work for you where you get money and you're able to get a profit out of that thing you're doing, but it doesn't work 100% of the time. So there's certain things that the world tries to do that doesn't work out 100% of the time, but if you follow the Bible principles, they work for you 100% of the time. So one of those things is the very first mandate that God gave to Adam in the Garden of Eden. And this was the very first thing that God told man to do. And guess what?
Multiply.
It was work.
Oh. Go forth and multiply.
God sent him to work. God told him to cultivate the land. Even before he gave him a wife, that was the first thing that God told Adam to do, because obviously after Eve came, that's when he told them to multiply. But when God put Adam in the Eve, he's like, I'm giving you, first of all, he gave him charge over the Garden of Eden. He's like, I've given you charge over this, so work it and cultivate it so that it would, like, you have to cultivate the land for it to yield and grow and just prosper. So we are called to work. As Christians, that is our first calling. We have to work in wherever situation we find ourselves. We have to exchange work for some kind of livelihood, whether it's money or whatever it is. You need to work. So you're not going to sit at home and money is just going to come and wealth is just going to come by doing nothing. Like, even if you're not working for somebody, even if you're not doing like a 9-to-5 job, even if you don't have your side, like, some kind of work has to happen for you to be able to earn income. So there are a lot of scriptures that talk about work. There's a scripture in Thessalonians that said, if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. And this is something that we believe so much in our culture, where, like, even to the point where people would never give money to someone that begs, because you just feel that you have 2 hands and 2 feet. Like, you can work. If I'm working for my money, you can do it too. So everyone should be working, and unless you're incapable of doing work, but as long as you're capable of working, you don't deserve a meal if you're not working. That's what the Bible said. I didn't say it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Yeah. So I'm just going to go over some of the scriptures that talk about work. I already said the one that talked about, if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. That is 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10. And then Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 says, lazy people are soon poor, hard workers get rich. So true. Then Proverbs 12 verse 11 says, a hard worker has plenty of food, but a person who chases fantasies has no friends. Oh, wow. This is so true, especially in the world we live in, where everyone is trying to chase some kind of get rich quick scheme.
There's so many
These are all
schemes.
fads and fantasies. Like, you have to put in work to get money. You cannot just sit and put in $10 and you get $1 million.
Yeah.
There's no rule in the universe that applies to that kind of thing happening.
Mhm.
I'm not saying people don't use it. People somehow seem to get by with that. But haven't you noticed that when you get into those, especially, I'm gonna use
easy come, easy go.
I'm gonna use multi-level marketing as well because I'm actually in one of those. And you see the people at the top of that chain, and they're doing so well, and it's like, and you try to put in the same effort that they're doing, and you're not getting as much that you're getting out of it because you're not the norm. Okay, these
And they're benefiting from
all of you that have been below
your
them.
efforts.
So you
will
trying to say,
benefit
oh,
them.
okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna retire early and I'm gonna live this life and it's gonna work for me. It's not always gonna work for you. Even when they make you sign the form, they always say that the earnings of the people at the top is less than 1% of the entire people in that company. That's to tell you how much it's like it's not always gonna work out that way. Like, you have to put in work.
Yeah, you have to put in your talents, you have to put in your skills, you have to put in your creativity. You gotta do something. You have to do something in order to get the rewards that you're seeking. Another Bible verse that's very applicable in this journey is you reap what you sow. So if you're working hard, let's say the example that we said before, chances are you're gonna do better in life. You're gonna become richer. You're gonna be more successful. If all you're doing is getting into more debt, all you'll get out of it is more debt.
If you're sow debt, you will reap debt. I think there's a scripture that says that no one plants like a grain of corn or something and reaps like
a grape.
Within, like, you're not gonna plant corn and reap grape. You're always gonna get corn 100% of the time. If you plant a seed of corn,
unless if someone else came in the middle of the night and then planted a grape instead.
You see, there's a scripture that actually says that. They came in the middle of the night, but they planted weeds. They didn't plant another thing.
Okay.
And the weed and the thing grew together. So it's still gonna grow. You're still gonna reap. You're looking now that you're reaping both weeds and your corn. Your corn still stays.
Yeah.
There's nowhere in life where that happens. Yes, obviously there's a scripture that says, if you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly. I think that's 2 Corinthians 9 verse 6. So if you're only saving $10 for your entire life, you don't expect to get, even though you can put that into investments and that compounds for you, you don't expect to get 50 million out of $10. It's not gonna work. There's no amount of investment that you put that into where that works for you. So if you sow sparingly, you're always gonna reap sparingly. If you sow bountifully, you're gonna reap bountifully.
Yeah, which brings me to that verse about when Jesus was talking about those people, those three guys that got the 3 different talents from their master. Like, the first dude was just like, I'm gonna just bury this in the ground and see what that happens.
He still got that one talent that he buried. When he dug it up, it didn't yield anything.
Yeah.
Whatever he dug into the ground, that's what he got.
Yeah, and then the other 2 went out there and invested in different ways, and then they ended up getting more. So like, chances are, if you're putting all your savings in a cup in your house, it's not gonna multiply. If you put it in investments, things that will grow, then chances are you'll get more out of it.
Yeah. And it actually says in Galatians 6 verse 7 that this is not Old Testament, because some people will be like, oh, Old Testament, that doesn't apply. This is Galatians. He said, do not be misled. You cannot mock the God of justice. You will always harvest what you plant. Like, there's no going around this. You can't get out of this. Whatever you put into the ground is what you reap. And this is not just in terms of money. Like, if you don't sow into your relationships, your relationships are not going to grow. If you don't invest time with your kids or your spouse, you're not going to get a good relationship out of that. The same thing with your work. If you don't put time into your work and do a good job, you're going to get fired. It's the principle of life. It doesn't just apply to just money alone. Whatever you invest your time and your money into, you will reap whatever thing you invested into that thing. Okay, moving on to the third one, and this is like, I feel like it's more of the foundation for us as Christians and believers. is that knowing that God is our source. Everything that we have belongs to Him. We are not the owners of whatever we have. And there's a scripture that says the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. And when God came into this world, He made the heavens and the earth. He made everything, and then He put us into this. And then when He gave it to Adam basically and says, I'm giving this to you to take care of it for me. So that's where stewardship comes in. And knowing that whatever we own, we're managers of those resources that God has given to us. Just because you're making money and you're doing good doesn't mean that it all belongs to you. You always have to put it at the back of your mind. And even when you have kids to like training them about money, you're letting them know that all of this money is not for mom and dad. Like we are all managing this for God. And if I'm gonna give you this money and pass on this money to you as my child, you need to follow these rules. You need to know that you're managing this money for God as well. And because we're managers of of whatever He's given to us, we know that we can't just squander it and do whatever we want. Yeah. First of all, we have to do what He says that we should do with the money, which is tithing and giving. And I feel like a lot of the principles we're going to be talking about stems from the fact that first you're realizing that God is actually the source of whatever money that we get. Yeah, and there's actually a scripture in Deuteronomy that says that He gives us the power to make wealth. So just because you have that ability to, like that idea that you have, you're not the one that created it yourself. Your intellect is not your own. Like you didn't create your intellect. Just because you have an idea, yes, it's your idea, but where did that idea come from? Where did you, the mental capacity or the intellectual capacity that you have does not belong to you because no one can create themselves. No matter how hard you try, like everything you have, yes, you were inspired through your own thinking and your awesomeness and your high IQ and all of that stuff, but you did not create any of those things. So everything God gives, and this is one of the things that I always pray, like God, give me that wisdom that I need to be able to create wealth, to be able to manage what you've given me, and not just spend my time here on earth, like not being able to have anything to show for it, basically.
Yeah. We need to He is the giver of all good things. So everything that you have that is good comes from Him.
Yes, everything good comes from God. Yeah, so speaking, I just talked about stewardship. So that's another Bible principle where because God is our source, we know that everything we get, we are stewards. Basically, a steward is someone that manages something on behalf of somebody, of an owner. So He gives it to, and you have the same rights to make whatever decisions you want with that whatever
authority.
Yeah, you have full authority over what has been given to you, but whenever the owner of that thing asks for it, you have to give it back to them. So that's what stewardship is about. So God has given us the ability, God is our source, and He's given us the ability to make wealth, and that wealth that we're managing it based on what He wants us to do with it. So if you are wanting to do things with your money, you need to be asking God first, is this the right step that I need to take? It always has to go back. You always have to get that kind of that permission from the owner of that thing. Like it's just like your job. Like if you're a manager and there's a CEO, you can't just say, oh, I'm gonna he has given you authority to make those decisions, but you always have to consult with him and get that last sign off on the document to say that yes, I approve this decision that you've made. So you always have to go back to God and say, hey God, this is what I want to do, like let me know if this is okay. And God say, yeah, sure. And usually if it falls within His principles, it'll be okay anyway. It's just like giving. If you want to give, it might not be to a specific person that God well, I don't want you to give to that person because they might not be able to handle it, but when it comes to giving, God always wants you to give. So if you're wanting to do something along those lines of what the Bible wants you to do, 100% of the time it will be a yes, as opposed to like if you want to use your money and gamble. Obviously, you're not going to get a yes from God.
I think it was last week that we were talking about the fruits of the Spirit, and one of the comments was that if you follow these rules, chances are you're going to be in the right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you have these things, chances are you're doing better. Chances are that you're not going to want to sin or do the opposite of the things, because if you have love, chances are you're not going to be hating. You know? Like
true.
So it's just the same way that if you're following the right principles, there are less chances of you doing the wrong thing if you're already doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scripture here, 1 Corinthians 4 verses 2, says, now a person who is put in charge as a manager must be faithful. So as stewards, our first duty is to be faithful to what God has given us, and that requires us managing that money faithfully. So not squandering it on debt and just catering to our own selfish desires and whatever our wants are, and this instant gratification that we live in where we just want to get everything and get it all right now, and that is not what we're supposed to do with the resources that God has given us. And another key scripture that talks about stewardship is like you mentioned earlier, the parable of the talents, where the owner of the estate was going away, and so he called his three managers and gave them different levels of wealth. And that's another thing. God gives us wealth based on our abilities, right? So if you've shown that you were faithful and you have that capacity to handle a lot of responsibilities, it's just like with your kids, like those kids that show that initiative, they're the ones that get responsibility. Like for me, my parents trusted me to be able to stay by myself at home. I look forward to that a lot. So when they go out, I'm like, yeah, I got the whole house to myself. And that was at a very young age. Even though I know that in this current culture, it's like they're gonna call
children by
they're gonna call social services on you. But for me, to me that showed that my parents trusted me to be able to take care of myself. So the parable of the talents, that shows stewardship, where they were called and they were each given 10 talents, and in what they did with that money showed their capability of stewardship, where at the end of the day, the one with the 5 talents got 5 more, and then the one with the 2 talents went and got 2 more, and then the one with the 1 talent just went and buried it, and then he brought his 1 back because it's like, well, I couldn't, you were a cruel man or whatever, so you, whatever excuse he made. And there are other things that I can point out from this parable. One being that God trusts us based on our abilities, and 2, at the end of the day, they actually did something with the money that was given them. And one of those things was they actually invested in it. One invested and one saved. So this is showing you that God actually, He's not just giving you that money and expects you to sit on it. You actually have to use that money to do something with it. So the one guy, he invested in it, and then when they came back, the third thing there was God evaluated their lives, and He actually added more. The manager added, or the owner added more to the first guy. So this guy, that showed that he brought 5, he gave him 5 more. The guy with the 5 and the guy with the 2, they each both got the same reward, because he said, because you've shown faithfulness, I'm going to reward you with plenty more. It wasn't quantifiable, so they each got the same reward. But then the guy with the 1, because he didn't do anything with the money, he took it away and actually added it to the guy that showed more responsibility, that did the most with the money. And it says, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have abundance. But from those who do nothing, even that little that they have will be taken away. Just look around you. Why do you think the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer? It's the scripture here, because the rich, a lot of the rich people, and I know in your head you want to always think that rich people are evil. There's so many rich people out there that are not evil. They're actually good stewards of what God has given them. If you look at the rich lifestyle, a lot of, I'm not even talking about rich, I'm talking about wealthy people. They're managing, they're not living affluent lifestyles. Yes, they have expensive things, but they're not carelessly spending their money on things that have no worth. They're actually being good stewards of their money, and for some reason they just keep getting richer. While the people that have little and they're not able to manage it, for some reason they're never able to get by.
Why can't you never meet your ends? Right? Every day you're trying to get it together, you're trying to live your life, you're like, oh, I can't get out of debt because I don't have 6 figures. You can never get to 6 figures. Your debt keeps increasing. Your interest rates are off the roof. Your minimum balances are becoming bigger than the minimumest of the minimum balances. It's just like your life is so chaotic because you're not managing your life well. And that's why you'll never be able to, and I'm sorry to say this, that's why you keep seeing rich people become richer, because you're not doing what they're doing.
And if you notice, there's one more thing about this parable where like you always like saying now that those people that say, oh well, I don't make six figures. These things are excuses, and that's what the guy with the one talent did. He made up all these excuses saying that the manager, he's a cruel guy. He reaps where he doesn't sow. So he thought, oh, I'd rather put this money on the ground. And what the guy told him was, if you knew I was an evil person, you should have at least just put this money in a bank, even if it earns 1% interest. At least it's something compared to just doing absolutely nothing with it. So that it just applies to our situation so well, where it's like, because we feel we're poor, we don't have money, so we decide not to do anything because we're like, oh God, well you bless these other people, you don't care about me, so you didn't bless me. But God is like, you have a $500 income, that is something. Use it. I want to see you use that money and do something first with it. And then now I know that, okay, this person can handle $500. Maybe I'm gonna try giving them $800 the next time. Okay, $800, they did perfectly well with it. Maybe I'm gonna increase that to $8,000. That's why you see people just go from nothing to all of a sudden they're doing so well because they've shown faithfulness in their abilities.
Another thing about investing and saving, there was one time in the Bible where Joseph had this big grand dream. That there was going to be 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. So when you get that brand new spanking job and you're like, oh man, I made it big in life. Like life is lit. And then now you start spending all kind of crazy ways, not knowing what tomorrow will bring. Like this what's it called, story tells us that you never know. There might be 7 years of plenty, but then there might be 7 years of nothing. So when you're in a good spot, this is the time that you need to start saving for emergencies. You need to start investing in things that are gonna yield returns when you can't actually support yourself.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
And similar to that, there's this proverbs that talks about the ants. So it tells
the worker ants.
It's like he's like go. It was telling the people to go and watch the ants. So it's basically telling them that you lazy people go and look at the ants. They don't have a ruler to tell them what to do. Yet they gather their food in the summer and they store it up so that in the winter time they have enough to last them. Like,
to put it in more perspective, look at the squirrels, you Canadians. Look at all the squirrels out here busy collecting everything that they can find during the summertime. Because so they can have something.
Those times are gonna come. Yeah. There's gonna be times of plenty and there's gonna be times of lack. So you need to be preparing yourself for those times when it's not always gonna be, it's not, because you're not gonna be living in abundance 2/7. There are always gonna be times where, because we live in a fallen world, the devil's sole mission, his ministry in this life is to steal, kill, and destroy. So what makes you think he's gonna leave you alone? He's not. He's gonna come after you someday. So you need to be stored.
That is very disappointing to hear. Please don't come for me.
So another principle is the principle of budgeting and planning. Proverbs 21 verse 5 says, "Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty." How about it? And this is what we've been saying all throughout this episode. Trying to do things, take shortcuts in life, trying to do things that don't always work.
Yeah.
If you sit down and you plan your money and you budget what your money should do for you, it will always work for you. And then Luke 14 verse 28 says, "But don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of money, and then everyone will laugh at you. They would say, 'There's the person who started that building and couldn't afford to finish it.'" So yeah, budgeting and just sitting down and setting goals and planning is the number one. It's the main reason why I'm able to get this far in paying off debt. Hands down.
You don't know what you're making, you don't know what your expenses are. How do you know whether there's room in your budget to pay more than just the minimum balance.
There is no way that you can ever make it far if you don't plan. It's just
In anything, like even in the worldly sense, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Like that's the basic principle.
Yeah. Yeah. So you really need to sit down. Like, wealth will not come by you wishing and praying. You can fast and pray from now till the world comes to an end. If you don't sit down and plan your money, you would always be in the same situation you're in. Yes, they're one of those people that they're walking on the road and someone taps them on the shoulder and said, God told me to give you $1 million. There's some people that happens to them. I don't even know if that happens in this day and age anymore. But thinking that you're going to be that person that's going to win the lottery, it's just not going to happen.
And even if you win the lottery and you don't know what to,
if you had no plan for that lottery money, guess what?
Yeah.
You're going to squander it. Even though you would like to think that you spend that money wisely.
Even if you would like to think that you are the 30% of people who make it, after
30%?
Yeah, 70%, 77% of the people that win the lottery end up being broke.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 30% win the lottery. I'm like, ooh, what?
No, if you want to be the odd 22% of people who make it after winning the lottery, you have to do something. You have to plan.
You have to have a plan for that money. And it's so funny when with planning. And there's a scripture in Habakkuk that says, write the vision and make it plain, so that those that see it might run with it. Like it's just like you saying things in your heart. Like you need to understand that God is he's omnipotent and he's sovereign, but there are people that he has assigned to do these things for you, and they're not sovereign. So you need to tell them what to do, and you telling them what to do is you having a plan. Every single time in my life that I have sat down and written something down, it's either it worked for me or I saw clearly that was not the path that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Like somehow you know what you're doing. It's either it works out or it doesn't work out. And when it doesn't work out, it works out in such a way that you know that, oh, this was not the path I was supposed to follow. I was supposed to do this other thing. So always having a plan works out always. Than someone that is just coasting through life and I'll figure it out and go because you only live once.
And obviously make realistic plans, right? Like if you make unrealistic plans, then and if you don't achieve them, then that's a whole other issue.
And then Proverbs 24 verse 27 says, do your planning and prepare your fields before building your house.
There you have it. Basic and simple.
It's so simple. Like I love Proverbs so much. Like beginning of this year, I read for the first 3-4 months. I did a proverb every day. Like there's just so much meat to it. There's just like Proverbs. Like I encourage you, if you're not a Christian, go read Proverbs. There's no trying to get you to believe God in this. These are just basic principles of life for people, anybody in this life. Whatever your religious beliefs are, Proverbs are for you. Like there's nothing here telling you that you have to believe God or you have to be saved or else you die. There's nothing here in Proverbs that says it's just basic principles of life. Like things that you have to do.
One wise guy that sat down and was like, this is how you need to these are the things that you need to follow in order to be successful in this life, or in order to be a human being in this life, you know, like just a normal person.
Okay, another one is about investing. Funny enough, the Bible talks about investing, like the parable we talked about earlier on, where the master, the people that he gave the money to, invested that money. And Ecclesiastes, which is another very, very good Bible book for like just nuggets of wisdom. I just love it. Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2 says, but divide your investments among many places, for you do not know where they might lie ahead. This is just so basic and simple, and it applies like this is like I was to say Warren Buffett wrote this. This is like Warren Buffett's rule of life of investing, and everyone
like it's investment 101 that you have to diversify.
Like it's so basic. Like I love the Bible so much. Like it just has all these things for you, and honestly, it's just so simple. Invest and diversify. It's as simple as that. And then just further down in verse 4, it says, farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. You know those people who are prone to like this, like everything about them is just negative. Like they're looking at, oh, the economy is down. Oh, Wall Street did this. Oh, Trump did this. Like, oh, there's never a perfect time. Oh, I gotta wait till I'm married. Oh, I'm gonna wait till I get a good job. Oh, I'm gonna wait till like there's just never anything good coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, there's a similar proverb in Swahili. It says, "Mchagua jembe si mkulima." It means that the person the farmer who is looking for the right hoe to the right tool to go to the farm is not a farmer. Because like if you're a farmer, you go grab whatever you have and you go and you go to work. You go to town with whatever you have.
And it's similar to what we had said earlier on in the season 1 when we were talking about like just use what you have.
Yeah.
Because there's never gonna be a perfect time. Because when you get that high paying job, you're gonna have more responsibility. Now you're married, now you have kids, now you have all these other things that are gonna be taking your money. So if you don't learn how to be responsible now that you have little, when you have more, you're not gonna know what to do with it. It's the same thing with investing. Like if you always wait for when the market is gonna be good, just throw your investment in and leave it there. Go to sleep. That's it. Just leave it there and set it and forget it. That's all you need to do. And then in verse 6 it says, plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon. For you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. This is side hustle 101. Like I can't like when I saw this, I was just so happy. I'm like I didn't even know that was there. I was like, wow, there's like 3 nuggets in there. There's the one about working, like you have to work, and then after working, you're investing what you worked on in the morning, and in the afternoon you're going to another work to do something else, because you can't just depend on one stream of income. So you're either investing that money or you're getting something else, another side hustle or another side income, whether it's passive income, residual income, investment like from your investment, whatever it is, you know that money is coming to you not just from one place, because especially in this country where there's no job security, like you can lose your job any day, especially when you work for somebody. And even if you have your own business, like that thing that is selling right now, people right now they have like a very short attention span. That thing that is hot right now, tomorrow it might not be hot. So just because maybe you think, okay, now I have this new technology and I have this app that I'm selling and like, it's making a lot of money, in the next 2 months someone else is gonna copy the exact same thing and sell it for cheaper. It's just the life that we live in right
Copyright
now.
that ish.
So you can't rely on one stream of income, basically, is what this is saying. And then
And also, like, I think there's also something about patience in there, like in that verse too, where that if just because you invested in something, you have, and that's why they're saying investing for retirement is a long game.
It's a long game.
Like you can't just expect that you'll be a millionaire in 1 year. That's not possible. Like you have to wait. And meanwhile, while you're waiting for investment to grow to yield its return, you're here working, you're doing other things, you're living life while you're waiting for that investment to yield what it needs to yield.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the part where we've been talking about like building wealth is just like what you just said. Building wealth it takes a long time. It takes a long time. Like I get very wary of people that say, "Oh, retire when you're 25." Well, that is all good. It's not something
you can
that
retire
works
when you're 25 if you are getting this information at 50 or something. You know what I mean? Like you have to have gotten this information early to be able to do this.
So to what you were saying about like building wealth takes a long time. In Proverbs 13 verse 11 it says, "Wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows over time." So it's just there in scripture, and it says that like if you do something over time, it will build wealth for you. That is how our parents built wealth. That's how our grandparents did it in their lives, where they had a job and they worked, and consistently they had their goals and they put money towards it, and they started to build wealth over time. So Just thinking that just because some 25-year-old tells you that he retired when he was 25 because he was investing 70% of his income doesn't mean that the whole population can do that. Not everyone has the ability to do that. But for someone to be in that position, there has to be really, really, there are a lot of circumstances that have to be unique to that person's situation for them to achieve that. And what we're saying is, yeah, we're not saying that it can never happen. Yes, it can happen.
If
but
you're 15
it's not
and
something
listening
that,
to this, then go at it.
it's not something that, I'm not even talking about people that said they were 15 and they started investing. I'm talking about people that maybe in their 20s and they did it for 5 years.
Okay, yeah, if you're 20, and you're
They did it for
getting
5
this
years and they got
information,
money.
then try it and see, We're not discouraging you from trying it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think we're saying the opposite.
Really?
Like what I'm trying to say is, yes, those things work, but it doesn't work 100% of the time. But what we're trying to tell you here works 100% of the time. Where if you put money into something and you let it grow and you do it consistently over time, like with those people that say, oh, if you started at 20 and you started putting $200, this is where you'd be at when you're 65. It was something that you started doing at that age, you would get to this stage. Whereas if you say, oh, I want to get that money that I would have got at 65 and get it in 5 years, it will be a lot harder, and there are a lot of things that you have to do, and there has to be a lot of unique situations for you to be able to do that. And then another one that is kind of like the bread and butter of our podcast is debt. What does the Bible say about debt? There's a one in Proverbs 22:7 that says that the borrower is slave to the lender, and that's a very popular one. And it just goes to show how much
debt weighs on you.
It's like you have chains on. Like you're always gonna be enslaved to that person. You're always like you have to do what they tell you.
Like you're gonna be enslaved to that bank. You're gonna be enslaved to that money mart. You're gonna be enslaved to Victoria's Secret. You're gonna be enslaved to.
Imagine being enslaved to Victoria's Secret. No judgments, by the way.
You're enslaved to Hudson's Bay. You're enslaved to wherever you have a credit card. That's your master right there.
That's why they call it MasterCard.
Ah! All the puns intended.
Romans 13 verses 8 says, owe nothing to anyone except for your obligation to love one another. So God told you. God told you. So God tells us not to owe anyone. And this applies to your friends. This applies to your parents. This applies to anyone in general. Like now, it's so hard. I'm trying to take away that debt mentality out of me. Like even like where I work, there's a cafeteria, and then sometimes like maybe if I'm just coming down from the shop floor and I wanted to grab a quick drink, like you can take something and like go upstairs and bring the money back, and like, you can pay them basically, so they can put your like basically open a tab for me. I told myself I'm never gonna do this thing where like if I have to go upstairs and like I go upstairs and get that money and come back, even if I have to do it go up and down 5 times, than for me to just say, okay, put my name down and I'm gonna go up and bring back the money, because I'm just gonna go up and then someone's gonna distract me, I'm gonna forget, and then before you know it, you're owing somebody. So I'm just like, I did it once, and after that I was like, I don't want to do this again. Like I wanna, like, not because I couldn't pay the money, but I just want to give myself that discipline.
Very bad habits.
Yeah, I want to create myself that discipline where I know that I never have to ever go to anyone and say I want to borrow money from you, ever. Like never owe anybody.
And if it's easy, if you get comfortable with that, it gets easier, and then you're just like, oh yeah, no, it's $1,000, give it to me,
Yeah, that's very true. And then still speaking of debt, it's something very interesting. So it's actually about paying your debt off. So there's a part that says don't borrow money, but now that you borrowed money, what do you do? And in Psalms 37 verse 21, it says, the wicked borrow and never repay, but the godly are generous givers. So it's telling you that if you borrow money from somebody and you don't pay that person, you're a wicked person. You're wicked. Like I have people that borrowed money from me, like excluding family, like people like back in high school, university days that like I just like I'm not the type to chase after you because of money. Like I said in the other episode, like if I give you money, I know that it's something that I'll just consider it as a gift. But even if I was expecting you to pay me back and you don't pay me back, it's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't owe people money and don't pay them back. Similar to what we talk about, like people that go into debt with the intention of filing bankruptcy. I'm not talking about people that they can't help it but file bankruptcy. I'm talking about people that say, "Oh, I'm gonna get into debt and like get stupid with this with the intention that when I cannot pay, I'll just file bankruptcy." That is not good. This is not what God wants us to do. He's not expecting us to go into debt and not having to repay people. So if you owe somebody, please, 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 pay them the money. And then also talking about paying debt, there's this scripture in Second Kings. There was this miracle that the prophet Elijah had performed. There was this woman with a jar of oil, and a lot of people preach about this. But there was something that I saw when I read that scripture, which was like very enlightening to me. So there's so many things that you can learn from this scripture. First of all, like this was a woman that she was a widow, right? So her husband, he was in the military, and they owed people money, right? So they were living like a lavish lifestyle. Obviously, in the military, you're wealthy at that point, but a lot of the things that they had was borrowed. And then he died, and he left this woman a widow with, I think she had 3 sons, or was it 2 sons? And then, so she went to Elijah, the prophet, then, and she was like, "Oh, my husband has died and left me with nothing, and all my borrowers are like," and this is part of what we're saying, being enslaved to your lenders. It's like, these people are on my neck, and they want to take my sons as slaves because I don't have money to pay them, so help me. So Elijah asked that, "What do you have? What do you have in your house?" So this is talking now about like starting with what you have. He told her, "What do you have at home?" And she said, first of all, she said, "I had nothing." She's like, "Oh, I don't have anything, but I have the jar of oil." So he told her, "Go back to your house, shut all your doors, and then go and collect containers and start pouring that jar into it." So this is asking her to actually diversify her income. So he said, don't just rely, I know you have something, but start with that one thing you have and then use that thing to continue to build more wealth for yourself. So she told her sons, "Oh, go bring like from all the neighbors, like gather up all their containers." They started pouring oil into these jars and it kept overflowing. As long as there was a container, as long as there was something, there was a means, oil kept flowing. As long as there was something for money to go into. So this is why you always have to keep busy. You always have to keep finding the next thing. As soon as she stopped, as soon as they stopped, the oil stopped flowing. And then she went back to Elijah and told him, "Oh, look what happened. Like I have all this jars of oil now." Do you know what Elijah told her? He said, "Go pay your debt first and then live on what you make. Live on the rest." I was like,
mind blowing.
Mind blowing. Yeah. He could have easily told her, "Well, you need to feed your kids because they don't have money." But he told her, "Make sure all your debt is paid off. And then whatever is left, you and your sons can survive with that." For me, when I saw that, I was like, wow, there's nothing else you want to tell me about debt payment. No matter what, my debt is going before I can ever do anything with my money. Because it just clears the path for you. Yeah. It just clears the part for you where you no longer owe anybody money. Yeah. So, that scripture is 2 Kings chapter 4 from verse 1 to 7. The story of the woman with the jar of oil. It's a very popular scripture, but if you really sit down and read it, like, you see those little, like, meanings.
And I know, like, the debt-free journey is hard. You know, like, the debt payment journey is hard. You know, like, you're constantly trying to, like, you know, pay off your debt. You're trying to live off of nothing, pretty much. You know, like, your budgets are, like, tight in the most tightest of places. Like, you have a wedgie of a budget. Like, you know, like, you can't breathe. You have it's more of like a comatose, but that's a whole other issue. Like, it's so tight and you're just struggling, and the years you think that the months are more than, you know, the money that you're making. Like, you know, your thermometer is just like stuck at middle, you know? It's just
I'm speaking for yourself.
I'm just telling the people the truth, you know? It's tough. And you might think that, oh my God, how long is this thing gonna last, right? But the Bible tells us there is seasons to everything, you know? There is a time for reaping and a time for sowing. There's a time for, like sadness is a time for joy. At this time, you're in your debt payment journey. It's a season. It's not gonna last forever. That's the beauty of it. And the next season, my friend, is gonna be lit. Like after you're done, after you're done paying off your debt, your life is gonna be lit. You're not gonna owe anybody nothing. That season is just gonna be
honestly
the best
that
season
is just one
ever.
of my biggest why. Just looking forward to that period in my lifetime where I can save for several decades in my life. I never owed anybody money. Like it's just I'm just looking forward to it so much. And then speaking of that, going through this hard times, to me, I guess it's difficult, but I actually look at the good side about it, and is that I'm actually disciplining myself, which is another very key Bible principle about being able to discipline myself. Because now, the way I am with my budget and the way my brain works with the purchases that I make and how I'm very intentional about everything that I do, I know that it's gonna take a really catastrophic thing to happen for me to get back into debt. Like it's just the way I am right now. I have so much discipline, and it's not just in my finances. Before, I wasn't thinking about 5 years from now, what am I going to do with my money? But now, I'm constantly thinking that, okay, now that I'm creating this room, what am I going to do in the next 5 years? Like when I have kids, what do I want to do with my kids? Like with my grandkids, what kind of legacy do I want to leave for them? I'm constantly thinking about that, and not just my finances, even with my daily life. I'm always thinking like, okay, how can I budget my time wisely? Like, how can I make sure that I'm not spending time doing something that isn't fruitful towards me? And it just creates discipline in you that I don't think anything else would. And I'm kind of grateful that I have this journey to go through, because it's bringing me to when you go through something in life and you just know that you're never going to go back to that place again. I feel like if I had just come in and just been good, I would have been slipping and going down. But for me, this is my low, right? For me to go through this, I know that I'm never going to go back through this again, because I know that when I come out, like I'm going to come out a different person. Like I already see myself transformed, like so much. So speaking about discipline, in Hebrews chapter, and what you were just saying about like it being hard, Hebrews chapter 12 verse 11 says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who are trained by it." This is so true, because when you're done with this depression, just imagine the peace that you're gonna have. Just imagine how much calmer and just logical and so like centered. Like I don't even know the words to use. Like I'm trying
Your
to
chakras will align. Not from the Bible.
Our chakras here. But yeah, that peace that you just have, that comes from knowing that things are gonna be fine. Things are gonna be good.
And yeah, like there's sometimes you go through things that are beyond your control, Like this is life, like we said before, this is a fallen world that we live in, and there is, things in this world that we cannot explain. Whether you're going through the debt-free journey or whether you go through a major life event that just like derails your life completely. The Bible tells us that God's plans for us are like good and to prosper.
Yeah.
And He will restore everything that the locusts have eaten. Like all this time that you spend, all this money that you're spending paying off your debt, times 10 when you're debt free, and you're obviously doing things wisely.
And it's not just money that He rewards you with. He rewards you with even time, where somehow now you have time to do things that matter to you.
Yeah, all the time that you've lost.
Yeah.
It will come back to you. So just keep at it, be patient. Don't be discouraged or despair, because there's light at the end of the tunnel, pretty much. The literal meaning is that the grass is greener on the other side. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep holding on.
Yeah.
Because our God is faithful. Yeah. The next thing that we want to get into is giving. And there are so many verses about giving because our God is a God that loves to give. Like, He gave His one and only Son to come and save this world. And everything that is God is love, and love is pretty much sacrificial, like love loves to give.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the verses, I don't know where this is in the Bible. I guess this is, I should blame it on childhood Sunday school cramming verses.
And
Yeah.
it shall come back to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Give, and it shall come back to you. When you give to the Lord. Isn't that Don Juan? That's on that.
I don't know what to say. I know I grew up on it. That's most of what I know.
So giving is so important, and a lot of people that say that they don't have enough to give, I really, really encourage you to give, because giving is something that from the very beginning, like this is how God blesses people right away. God uses other people to bless people, because when you're not giving, you're not letting God use you to bless somebody that needs that blessing. So you're actually stopping, well, you can't really stop God, but you're actually blocking someone that would have received something at a time that was very timely for them. So you really need to be very, very responsive to God's calling to give, and be really open towards giving, because this is how this is how we prosper in life. Not just you, because giving is something that it's a butterfly effect where it comes full circle, because when you give to somebody, now they feel compelled to give to the next person, and then it doesn't necessarily have to be the person that you gave that gives you back, but somehow, because you took that person to give,
generosity is
it
contagious.
goes all the way and comes back to you. There was one time I remember, my mom is a notorious generous person, to the point where even us, the kids, like, it became a problem. Because my mom would say yes to everyone, and it was like, Mom, like, we don't have money. Come on, what are you doing? Like, you can't just be Mother Christmas to everybody. But there was one time, but there was one time back then when I was in school, there was something that happened to me where I think I needed help, or something happened. I was stranded or something, and then there was this lady that I met, and then we started talking, and then she was asking me my name, and then I told her my name, and she was like, Brooke. She's like, oh, I know it, Brooke. She's like, do you know your name, Brooks? I was like, that's my mom. She was like, oh my goodness, what a wonderful woman. I love her. She is such a nice. Like, this woman went out of her way that day to help me. I think I was one. I can't even remember. I knew it had to do something. It was in school back then, university. It was a lecturer. I never told my mom this story because it just came back to me right now. I just forgot. Like, from that day, I never gave my mom grief, because I was like, this is somebody that I don't know this person, but for some reason my mom helped her at some point, and she was able to help me and like go over and beyond to give me that help at that point, because she remembered that, oh, that this is what that person did for her. So if my mom was someone that was mean to her, imagine how she would have treated me. Imagine how she would have treated me. So you just never know. Like, this is something that I don't even, like, we didn't even go to details. Like, I don't even know if it was 20 years ago that my mom gave this woman help, and then it somehow got transferred to her daughter. So, like, never ever think that you're doing it because you want to get something in that instant. Just do it as a response to God's calling and God's instruction to give in, because it's always going to somehow come back to you. It will always come back to you, and in good measure.
Yeah, speaking of the same thing, like, when I was in St. John's, I helped a lot of students that were new and they were coming in, and like if it was a place to stay or whatever, or like just even hosting like little parties for them just for fun. When I was out of luck and I was like out of a job for whatever reasons it was, these are the same people that came to support my businesses. And if I was not in good communication with them, I would have never been able to sell my stuff because they were the only people that my things were targeted to. You know what I mean? So like being in good relationship, giving, like just being a good person helps you in life, like just don't think that, oh, why should I be nice to these people? Why should I help this person who needs help? Because you never know when it's your turn. You can never know. Things are good right now, like that's what we're talking about, seasons and all that stuff. Things are good right now, but you never know when things are gonna turn.
And there's this one of the parables that Jesus had given in his time about like the woman with the widow's mite, and people like to talk about it saying, oh, give out of the little you have. But the thing about this woman that people don't understand is that she gave out of her nothing.
She gave everything.
Out of her nothingness. And then you think that because I have nothing, I have to wait until I have a little bit of something to give. Like she knew, to her it was more like a rule of life. It's just like you now, just like us now at this stage, regardless of our income, we know that, oh, we have to tithe and we have to pay off our debt. So regardless of where your faith, it's just like when I lost my job, I was like, I'm still gonna tithe. I'm still gonna pay my debt off. So to her, that was the situation she was in. And she's like, I don't have anything, but I am going to the synagogue and I have to give something. So she gave the very last that she had. And even the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all through that, the rich people in that community at that time, they were giving out of their affluence. And Jesus was like, this woman, whatever she gave is more meaningful because she still gave. She still gave. It didn't matter what percentage she was given, but because she gave something, it mattered. So don't wait and say, oh, I'm not making bank. Well, I need to be making this kind of money. Like, well, the Bill Gates of this world, they're able to give because they have the money to. They got to that stage because they started giving. So don't wait till you're rich or you're rich in your own thinking before you start giving. Start giving from the little.
Yeah, because wealth is perspective.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you might get an increase in income, but still you don't find yourself wealthy enough to give.
So, and one of the things about giving is being able to give actually comes from a place of contentment. Being content with what you have, because that mindset of, oh, I cannot give because I don't have enough, is you thinking everything I have, I need it for myself, and I need more. I just need more for myself, and I need to get to that level where I'm at this percentage of having enough for myself before I start giving.
Percentage of enoughness.
So honestly, contentment is another thing another discipline that I've learned during my therapy journey. It's something that, oh my goodness, I just like to have everything. Like I have no patience in life, and if I want something, I go for it, regardless of what it's costing me. And during this journey, and part of it is just me, and it takes intentionality too. There's some people that they're just so good at living on less, and they do it with minimal effort. Me, I'm not one of those people. I need to train myself to be content. I need to be intentional about being content and just looking around me and realizing that I have more than enough. I have more than I need. I have a house that I live in.
I feel like it has to do with like
food and shelter and all those things. Like I have those things, and those are the things I need. Everything else is just something that I want, and just because I don't have the means to get it, it doesn't add to my life or take away from my life. And I'm really, really trying to embrace like being minimalistic and just realizing that before I buy something, I really have to look at that thing and say, do I really, really need this thing? 2 years from now, am I going to be using this thing?
That's true.
How valuable will this thing be for me 2 years from now? How much use am I going to put into it? Like, and obviously, depending on how expensive that thing is, you would be asking yourself more questions. But it's so funny. Even like with buying groceries now, like I have to go through my fridge and go through my cupboard and say, oh, I don't want to just be buying food just for
Yeah.
the sake of stocking up.
Mhm.
I want to be making sure that the food that I'm eating is something I'm consuming in the next month
Mhm.
or 2 weeks or less, and just not storing up things just for the
Yeah.
sake of it.
Yeah. Which brings us to the verse.
Verse 13, verse 5 says, don't love money. Be satisfied with what you have. For God said, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you.
Amen.
Being content comes from you trusting in God too,
Mhm.
knowing that He will take care of you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to have all of these things that you need,
Mhm.
or all these things that you get. Just having that confidence that regardless of what happens, God's gonna take care of me. It also compels you to give now because you're so grateful to how much to God for how much He's sustaining you. It compels you to give. So I encourage you to try your best to always be content with whatever situation you're in. I know it's hard to be content when you think you don't have enough, but if you look around you, you would be surprised at how much you actually have.
Start a gratitude list. You know, that's a good place to start. Like, what are you grateful for? And that way, it will kind of like boost your, you know.
Yeah, it increases like because I used to do this before where I just every night before I go to sleep I'll write 3 things that happened in that day that I'm grateful for. And sometimes it's hard, so you have to really think of things, and the more and almost 90% of the time it was never something material. It was something like, oh, I spoke to my sister today, like I heard from my mom. Like it's just those little things that you didn't realize actually make make you satisfied in life. And at the end of the day, you're like, wow. Like I was watching this story with this couple that started this whole fire movement when they're trying to retire at a young age. And then so they made them list all the things that like the things that were important to them because they had to move. Like they were living like close to the beach and like this whole like nice area. So they had to write the 10 things. And then this lady, she was talking about, oh, like talking to my baby, like singing to my kid, talking to my husband, seeing his smile. Like it was nothing else was much. And he asked her, like, I don't see the beach there. And the reason why they moved there was because of the beach, because they felt that they needed to be around the beach. Like, yeah, they take walks in the beach, but that was not important to us. So, like, we've been spending all this money to live in a nice house because we thought that the beach was important to us, but actually writing my list, and it's actually not even the, because she wrote 10 things, and it's not even on the first 10 on my list. So you sometimes you think that, oh, having that nice car is important to me, but when you actually sit and write the things that matter to you, none of these things are material things. So I would encourage you to actually sit down, especially now that it's
The beginning of the year.
even now that it's the beginning of the year. It's really important for you to reflect and decide what is important to you, because that determines the trajectory of how your life, like 10 years from now, is gonna go when you start defining what's important to you. And then the last thing about giving is actually taking care of family and leaving an inheritance for your family. And the Bible does say that a good man leaves an inheritance for his kids. And it also says to honor your mother and your father. And it says that anyone that doesn't take care of their family is. Wait, I need to open that thing to find which school to the Bible. But those who won't care for their relatives, especially those in their own household, have denied the true faith. Such people are worse than unbelievers.
Wow.
There you go. So these are all the Bible principles that we have, and hopefully, if you're non-Christian, it doesn't matter really. It doesn't really matter. All of these things apply to anyone. Like anyone that is moral knows that they have to take care of their family, at least your wife and kids, the bare minimum.
Yeah, at least the people in your household.
Yeah.
Start with that. That's why they say charity begins at home.
Oh yeah. So all of these things are basic things that everyone talks about, both believers and unbelievers. And the key thing to take out of these is that if you do these things 100% of the time, it will work for you. Yeah. Amen. So
follow us on every platform that we have. Two sides of a dime.